So I'm here today with Reverend Dr. Dwight Ford, and I cannot thank you enough for coming on the Rock Island Line.
No, thank you for having me.
And I'm so excited that you also grew up in Rock Island. So
Yes.
we're really going to get into your role as CEO of Project Now and some things going on with the city. But I thought first we could just explore your Rock Island journey. And so what brought you to the city of Rock Island?
Well, first of all, thank you again for having us. And we are immensely happy and proud at the same time of this opportunity to be with you and knowing your commitment to the shared reality of our humanity. So again, on behalf of the agency and the people I serve as a pastor, thank you. I came to the Quad Cities as a part of the Great Black Migration, which many African Americans came this way from the southern landscapes of America. And so somewhere around the 50s and late 50s, 60s, and even early 70s, this particular community saw an influx of Black Americans coming from Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, places more the southern region, some from Missouri as well, making their way up north. For one is to look for landscapes outside of the reality of Jim and Jane Crow South. At some point, people become exhausted with the reality of limitations and where you can and can't go, and the reality of Jim Crow laws and fighting for your dignity every step of the journey. Two is, and I don't mean that lightly, fighting. Sometimes there's a fight for life and death. There are people that had to come north to save their life because they stood up for themselves or they said something back to someone as a defense of their own humanity. And they were put on trains or had to get in the car and not be able to go back home.
Thurgood Brooks talked about that. When I talked to him, his history, it was, I think, his grandmother, maybe his great-grandmother, I'm not great at the math and timing, but had escaped an indentured servitude situation where she was victim of pretty intense abuse and
Absolutely.
ran away in order to save her own life and to flee a terrible system of oppression and violence.
Yes, and I think that's a story about America we don't tell as often, that yes, it was for burgeoning and blooming opportunities economically for some, because as Malcolm X reminds us, that when we came up here, we arrived to up south, that there's segregation and racism even in northern states, always has been, but different than the Jim Crow laws. But my family came up in 73, and actually my father is a Vietnam vet, Marine. I'm actually third generation combat vet, and so my grandfather, World War II, Purple Heart, and my father, Vietnam era, and myself, Gulf War I. And so my father had a good friend, had come here for a better opportunity and found a wonderful reality working in the factories. In those days, the factory boom in Rock Island was the place to be.
Yeah, John Deere, International Harvester, Farmall.
JIKs, all of them were in a row, you know, and if an individual, of course, missed one, they could walk down the street. You had Service Rubber, you had the Rock Island Arsenal. It was a factory town, riverfront factory town. And he came back to the South. We were living in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I'm originally from Crystal Springs. If you've heard of Jackson, Mississippi, it's just the state capital. I'm about 20 minutes south of Jackson, so I can make it to Greater Jackson in maybe about 15 minutes, and from a little place called Crystal Springs. My family was living in Vicksburg as my father was a welder on the shipyard, and welders were in need here. And he came up perhaps like on a Thursday night. In those days, you didn't have to go to a kiosk and submit an application. You could just ask to speak to the floor manager or the supervisor, and make a plea and say, hey, listen, I have this history. This is what I do. I'm a hard worker. You can put on a pair of khakis and a flannel shirt and shake a strong hand and, so to speak, and you end up on the factory floor. He asked my father, when could you start? He said, well, I'll go back and get my family, and I'll be back Monday. And that's how it happened that quick.
Wow.
And so 73, I rode up as a young kid in the middle console. Back then, the cars, of course, didn't have the regulations we have now with seat belts and car seats. I sat right in the middle of my mother and father, what would probably be the armrest of the steering wheel. And
do you have brothers and sisters?
I do.
Are you the oldest, the youngest?
I am the oldest.
Okay.
So when I arrived, I was the only child. And I have 4 other siblings. So I have a brother that's 4 years younger than me. He's living in Rock Island. He's a wonderful chef at Friendship Manor. And have been there for quite some time. His family is in Rock Island as well, wife and children. And of course, for my brother that is right under him is an electrician. He moved away from here maybe a couple years. He's in the Denver, Colorado community there for a season with his spouse and children. My sister is here. She's an attorney. Married a wonderful chiropractor here, and so they have made their living right here in Bettendorf. My parents live in Bettendorf. Originally, we were in Rock Island, but they moved to Bettendorf in the early 90s. 91, 92, so really early. Bettendorf was nowhere what it is now, and kind of a very rural kind of reality after a certain street, and then the rest was cornfields. And so to see where it is now.
Isn't the name Bettendorf, doesn't that mean like bed town in German? It's just a place to rest your head. It's not really it's very residential. I think that might be what Bettendorf stands for.
It may. I would have to definitely confer to someone that is German that could help me with the language better. But they found a wonderful opportunity there and continue to serve our greater communities in the Quad Cities. And the baby of the family is Paul, and he's a computer engineer, and he just moved back to the Quad Cities from Chicago.
So, your family comes from the South and sets up in Rock Island, and that is the beginning of a lot of opportunity and wonderful outcomes, it sounds like, for you and your siblings. And I'm really curious because I wrote a little article on my website about kind of the history of systems of oppression that change shape and form over time. So, slavery is abolished, but you have things like indentured servitude or the Black Codes or Jim Crow or de facto segregation. So your father was a soldier, and there's a history there of World War II and the Vietnam War. What was your family's experience with like the GI Bill or with redlining?
Yes. So redlining, of course, is more experienced than major metropolitan cities. So there are portions of the Quad Cities right now where you see the deepest level of poverty and the most minoritized poverty are still suffering from the realities of redlining.
I think the west end of Rock Island
Absolutely.
and the downtown area were graded. So in redlining, they gave parts of communities like a grade, and then if you had a certain grade, banks would not loan to you. There was a lot of racism in banking practices where you couldn't get a mortgage. You couldn't really choose where you wanted to live.
Very much so. So the redlining comes from an actual reality of drawing a red line around a certain area that was penalized for their pigmentation.
Did your parents run into that then when they came from the South? Could they have lived anywhere they wanted to in the Quad Cities, or were they pushed through banking practices or limitations in the GI Bill that, because my understanding is the GI Bill also wasn't administered equitably.
Fairly, that's right.
Was that part of your family's story where there was still some limitation of where you could choose to live, or what?
I'll answer it this way. The first year, we moved to what is now Maple Ridge. It was Riverview Apartments there. And the community of individuals that lived there, husband, wives, children, it was a family-oriented apartment complex. And I had the most beautiful experiences there. as a child for that year, and would always go back because I had first cousins. When we came up, we immediately went back and told the rest of the family. My mother has a twin sister. Her husband is a Navy veteran, and they decided to come up. My mother has an older sister that had a husband that was used to working in factories. They came up. So all three of the siblings and their spouses and children end up buying homes in the same area. So the first one to move out of Riverview was my family. We purchased a home on 505 18th Avenue in Rock Island. So caught between the realities of Rainbow Park and Sunset Marina, if you keep on down 18th, Douglas baseball field in the park there, a handful of blocks away from the Martin Luther King Center, where I spent my childhood and some of the developmental years. And so I had a beautiful experience growing up in that community. That house next door, my mother's twin sister and her husband moved right in the house behind us, her older sister and husband. So all of my cousins became like siblings because we were so close to each other. And that was for all of the time from 74 all the way into my departure in 1988 after high school graduation into the Marine Corps. That was where my childhood was spent.
That was home, and it was full of love and connection and community, it sounds like.
Yes, and so for my experiences with my family, I don't know if they ran into the understandings of red lines as harsh. I do know we were able to purchase the home. I do know that we were able to exercise some of my father's benefits. And so to have that and that opportunity to grow up in that community, most of the members in that community owned their homes. A lot of them were factory workers as well. My mother was an early childhood educator and taught Headstart for 30 years. And so my father worked in the factories until the great collapse of the 80s, and then became the first black man to be employed at the State Highway Department here for right on the Beltway, almost off of the Mile, and adjacent to the backside of the airport is their hub there.
And what year was that?
Oh, that would have been I was still a very young guy, so I'm thinking that would have been in 80, 82, 84, somewhere around in there. I was just old enough to maybe 84. The collapse started happening with the factories, and so I know it had to be in the 80s. I graduated 88, but by 16 years old, I would, if I wanted to keep his car for the day, I would drive him to work, and I would keep the car and do some of the things I wanted to do in those years of 16 years old. So I would have had to be around 14 when he first went there, somewhere around in there, and then by 16, I could vividly remember utilizing the car, 16, 17 or something like that, yes.
So it's such a beautiful story of progress and success and this opportunity to live the American dream. And, you and all your siblings have gone off into the world. And I mean, he was the first black person hired at the highway, and it was 1988, which isn't that long ago.
Yeah, so it was definitely in the 80s. I can't remember if it was 88, but it was definitely in the 80s. So between that 84, 86, somewhere around in there. So that tells you how far we've come, but it doesn't speak to how far we have left to go. And so our experience was wonderful and beautiful because of the people that we were in proximity to. Mr. Jim Kerr, my alderman for years, was 2 houses away. And the people across the street, not everybody of the same hue, but of the same understanding that we were going to make of this area our community. And so we had beautiful friendships and conversations with individuals often. My father became a father figure to many of the young men. And my father would bring people home that were experiencing homelessness to shower and eat with us. And so for me, I've grown up with public servants. My father could talk to anyone from a state senator to a person experiencing homelessness and never miss a stride. My mother was a public servant in the sense of teaching early childhood education in Headstart. All of my siblings are Headstart alum, and we're very privileged and thankful to have done some of the things we have been able to do. But Headstart gave us our beginning with a loving family and loving parents in a community of support. And to be able to see where we could go as a family has been something of major import and a sense of bearing, because we know that wherever we are, we're never too far from those humble beginnings. My mother for years worked with women that were in the sex trade or sex work, working with women in addiction, working with women out of domestic and sexual violence every Tuesday or every Thursday. And I would go and watch the kids while she worked with them.
Yeah.
So this has been my experience.
It's woven into you as
yes,
a human being.
There's nothing that I could have done to avoid who I am today.
And I know a little bit of your biography, so
Sure.
I understand that you went off and served in the Marines, and
Yes.
as you're serving, something happens and you're asked to say a prayer, and through that experience, you're thinking, maybe you're following in your father's footsteps a little bit, that a love of using words to be healing and belief in God, and so I know that you have a doctorate in divinity from Harvard University. Am I getting that right?
Well, actually, my master's is from Harvard, and my doctorate is from Garrett-Evangelical Theological Seminary at Northwestern.
Okay. And I'm a Northwestern alum in their undergrad program.
Wonderful.
So what years were you in Evanston?
So from 2019 to this past June. So
oh my gosh.
6 years, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you go off and you serve in the Marines, and then you start to, you have this interest in academics and in divinity or theology, and are having experiences and learning and growing. What stands out, because you've done so much that if we cover it all, we'll have to do 2 segments of the podcast, but what stands out in those years that you were away before you returned home to Rock Island or back to the community?
Well, wow, that's a great question. So what stands out, having a chance to have pastored in as many cities, and I've come back to the Quad Cities twice, brief stints, but back twice for pastoral responsibilities. But going away for the very first time and having a chance to see Saudi Arabia and see Kuwait and see Italy and see Rome or see Ireland or see Diego Garcia, the Cocos Islands, Australia, Korea, Okinawa. So for me, it just opened up the world, just to be with people, understand people, and journey with people. And I think those were the earliest beginnings of this sense of understanding of a world much larger than the one that you began in, and to see how people live and understand their levels of promise and their plight among challenges as well.
Did you inherit your father's ability to talk to anyone, to connect with anyone as you're traveling the world, really seeing humans as humans and being able to be in community?
I would definitely hope so. My introduction to ministry didn't come through my personal denomination. It came while I was a Marine. Marines don't have chaplains of their own. We're a Department of the Navy. And so when there's a naval chaplain that cannot arrive to where we are or at a forward station or unfortunately killed in battle, then there is a person in the platoon or the company that is called a religious lay reader. So when they asked for someone in my days of boot camp early on, they asked would there be, we only had 2 expressions of the faith at that time in the 80s, so that shows you how far we've come. You were either Protestant or Catholic, that was it, And so I raised my hand to be the Protestant, and every Sunday I would go and train under the chaplain. So if the chaplain could not be where Marines were, then there would be a need for someone to be able to do last rites, serve sacrament, be able to have study or proclamation of message and sermon with the people, and that was me.
Wow.
I could do everything except for counsel because I hadn't been seminary trained. And so I never thought I would get a chance to utilize it while I was in the Marine Corps. I knew that in those days in the boot camp that I was being trained. And as a Marine, I still had to facilitate all of my regular military occupational specialty duties.
You were still doing push-ups.
So that's that. You don't get out of anything.
Yeah.
And so my first commitment was to my MOS. But in my last year, as a part of Marine Security Forces in an advanced naval station in Diego Garcia, the chaplain had to rotate early, and the naval officer that was in charge of the island. It's a strategic location. It's a rock in the middle of the Indian Ocean, British Indian Territory. At its widest point, it's only 1.5 miles wide, mostly jungle strip. Had a community of Mauritianers that were contract workers, Filipinos, contract workers, and folks from all over the world working at this advanced naval station, maritime fleet out in the bay or the past the lagoon in the ocean. British Royal Marines, I had a chance to train with them. So we're in anti-terrorism, high speed, low drag, jumping out of, rubber boats and all this. Really, for those that have the appetite for it, you kind of living what you had anticipated and, so to speak, the dream of doing some things that kind of keep your adrenaline up and open. But when the chaplain rotated out, I was asked, could I facilitate the chapel services? And I did so for the last maybe 9 months of the time there. I was there for a year. But I had to preach to everyone that was expressively Protestant, and even some that were of the Catholic understanding, I had to preach to. So that taught me a lot about how to communicate, because denominational and theological understandings can often at times divide one another. And I had to keep the main thing. That taught me a lot about how to work with humanity. To be able to go to a place where people depend on that message. They're so far away from home. Everyone's under stress. And so in those few minutes, people are one. It's a shared understanding of our common humanity. And I've never taken that for granted. So the church I pastor now is equally expressive of that. You'll find people that grew up Catholic, Lutheran, Baptist, Pentecostal brands. You have to know something about everyone to be able to relate. So you don't start conversations for agreement. You start conversations for understanding. And if we're in any relationship with anyone based on agreement, then we've missed an opportunity to understand. Because as soon as I find out you and I don't agree, I check out. If I was basing my relationship with you on agreement. My hopes is that I would understand you better. And my sincere prayer is that you would understand me better. But to do that, we have to be extremely authentic. So we'll know each other. And if I know that naturally offends you, I won't bring that to you. And if I know you're more inclined to work with children, then I'll work with you on that. And if I know you're more inclined to work with returning citizens coming out of incarceration, I'll work with you on that. But if I know you have a deep passion for people experiencing homelessness, I'll start with that. That doesn't mean you won't do anything else. It just means this is where you see your best effort. And we may disagree about a whole lot of things. But what we won't disagree on is our shared humanity.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I hope I have inherited from my parents, that you make of people your friend. And I've always said, don't make an enemy out of someone that just happens to be at this time not your friend.
Yeah. So, I mean, you bring this deep wisdom and understanding of humans, and have observed humans across time and in different places around the world, and have lived and worked in different cities. And you have this also formal educational background, and And Rock Island is lucky enough that you're now back here serving as CEO of Project Now, which, I mean, is really awesome. So to have someone who grew up with a heart for this community, went off, had all these experiences, and now is back leading one of our most long-standing, important nonprofits in the region. I believe Project Now has been in existence for 57 years. Am I kidding?
1968, May, yes.
1968.
Yes, long time.
Long time, long time. So before you were born, before I was born, this organization has stood. And how did you come back and lead it?
I'm glad. Yeah, another one of those stories. So I had the privilege of pastoring in a lot of cities and doing great work. And you talked about what I learned. When I first experienced Harvard, my commitment was to be a Kingian theologian, which I am, meaning that I studied the work and life of Dr. King expressively from 1954 to 1968, the traditional years that we consider to be civil rights years, not because that's the only time civil rights happened, but these were the major civil rights legislative moves out of the 64 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voting Rights Act, 68 Civil Rights Act for fair housing. People forget to put the Civil Rights Act. It was a Civil Rights Act. And so 68 was the last piece of major legislation branded by a unique individual, Dr. King, but carried out with a whole lot of different personalities. And so we don't subscribe to just as one person doing all the work, but it is nice to note galvanizing point or tip of the spear that widens the tributary as they make enormous sacrifices. And we cannot miss an opportunity to say thank you for all of those. Diane Nash, Mother Dorothy Height, so many that helped push our way forward. But those early days of 54 coming out of Brown versus Board, major piece of legislation, of course, December 1st, 1955, Miss Rosa Parks sits down. Dr. King is catapulted as he has arrived from Boston back down and working on his doctoral dissertation in what he thought would be the sleepy town of Montgomery, kind of quiet enough to allow him to finish, and he has a great congregation to pastor there at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And because he's the newest, he has a sense of bearing. He's young. He doesn't have the reputation of having offended relationships. And they thrust upon him and said, we want you to consider this. And he said, well, if you can't find anyone else, then I'll do it. And the rest, as they say, is history. So that was my studies of SCLC, looking at major change in the world based through a theological lens that is non-discriminatory, meaning that I don't have to come to your church for you to treat me as a human being. That I could still.
Can you say that one more time? Again, one more time. Major change in the world.
Through a theological non-discriminatory lens. And that it is not simply, if we build a school, it wasn't just for the members of my church. It was for people. If we, in fact, do a kitchen and serve meals, people would ask, well, do I have to be a member of the church? No. It is for the public good. So what Dr. King assumed, and all those that work with him, Dr. Virgil A. Wood, who was a mentor of mine, worked with Dr. King the last 10 years of Dr. King's life. The movement was 13 years with Dr. King. And, he's 39 years old. He's assassinated, doesn't even make 40 years old. People assume much more. His life was a constant death threat. And his body was taking an enormous beating. Most of what we call activists today have no idea what sacrifice is. Yeah. Of what it means to move your entire family from a black suburban landscape where they are solidly connected and move them to a 3-story tenement building, 1550 South Hamlin on the west side of Chicago, where you got to sweep up the rocks and the trash, and the whole entryway into the apartment complex reeks of alcohol and urine, wall-to-wall roaches and rats. Move your family there for intentional location. Yeah, so to have individuals now, and I'm not making this as a judgment and trying to hurt those that claim to be activists. I'm saying when I go to Cali, Colombia, or Havana, Cuba, their activists talk about death very freely.
Mm-hmm.
When in the service I'm in Cali, Colombia, they're singing songs, and I'm with translators, and I'm asking what are they singing. It's not what you and I would call a praise and worship service. They're singing sorrow songs because their family members have been hacked to pieces and left as an example as people are trying to run them off the land.
Yeah, and all of that threat and violence
Yes.
and push and kind of coming from a person who, in my understanding, is preaching and talking about what you just said, that is, you extend your love beyond the people who are standing right next to you, who look like you, who
Yeah.
worship the way that you do. You push your love out everywhere. And how dangerous that philosophy and theory was to the structure of the United States, that this powerful message of love your neighbor as yourself, of, you know, all people are inherently valuable and worthy and beautiful, that became this really dangerous message to a society.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? That love is definitely a force to be reckoned with. It is, as Dr. King would say, unarmed truth. It's the highest expression of our humanity. So when I pastored in Sacramento, I worked in and among folks that were sex workers, people with the reality of living with HIV and AIDS. I've spent my time working with the tent cities and trying to work and get people housed. When I spent my time in Tampa, Florida, I worked in Suitcase City, a derogatory term for a portion of the city that was highly immigrant-based, where the turnover was so massive they called it suitcase because you weren't going to be there long. Undocumented workers, individuals being used for day work and not even paid, put them on the back of a truck, take them out work for 12 hours, then get back and say, well, come back tomorrow, and the truck never comes back tomorrow. Wage theft, people that were dealing with domestic violence and not have documentation when they're hurt or robbed on the street because people carry cash and they couldn't even go to the hospital. So yeah, so this has been my
But
my
this is
experiences.
really adding layers of, I've been steeped in this stuff around homelessness just as an observer.
Yes.
I don't really have a role in any of this. I don't work for anyone. I'm not attached to anyone. I just grew up in Rock Island. I love Rock Island. I love people.
Yes.
But witnessing from the outside the controversy around the Lift Now shelter, and
Yes.
so, you know, everything I've been following, to see you, you know, bring with you to that moment the perspective and experiences and gravity of a historical path that we're walking toward loving one another and taking care of the poor and, you know, changing society, and to arrive at the moment where Rock Island is struggling with a very watered down, like, it's an issue, but like kind of in the scheme of history, a non-issue, that we ran a shelter for 90 days and it was inconvenient and there were real concerns. And I don't mean to downplay any of those, but hearing your history that's brought you to this moment, to this place of leadership, to this moment of leadership in our city, to your service as a Marine, to your work with people who are really suffering, to, you know, spending your life learning about a man and a movement of a collection of humans that were willing to die for what they believed in, and that some of us in Rock Island are really struggling, that there might be a little more visible homeless on the street. And so the passion and the perspective and everything you bring to the moment. And then I've kind of watched city leadership or nonprofits, this thing pop up, which we'll talk about because I might not be characterizing it well, of almost like blaming you for having that passion, for keeping the main thing, for being a champion for your organization and doing work on behalf of the marginalized and the poor. I mean, that is your job in this role.
It is.
But kind of like, how dare he put that first in his conversations with the business owner or with the city, or so I don't know if it's okay to segue into.
Yeah, so Project Now has a history of this.
Yeah.
So in '68, we started as organizers. So it was called NOW, Neighborhoods Organizing Work. So we started not with the institutional idea of being service delivery systems, although I'm thankful for that, but to think of us solely as social services is missing a major component of our history and our commitment. So in '68, if anyone does the history with us, two significant marks were happening at the same time. One is that here locally, the Model Cities program was coming to an end. Model Cities, we were one of a number nationally that were awarded these federal grants for urban renewal. And what most of the majority population would see is a good thing, and it could be good. Depends upon whose hand the tool is in. Most of the black people would tell you urban renewal means black folk removal. And so up until that time, you talk to any of the historians in the black community, will tell you we had a thriving black community, that many didn't even go downtown for nothing because all of the businesses were on that end. Now, they weren't all black owned, but they were black adjacent. And we had wonderful relationships. I see my Caucasian brothers and sisters stop me all the time and say, hey, I grew up in the West End. I grew up on this street. They're proud of the fact. And they list off the families that they associated with because it was indeed a total community. So to have the trolley car that runs from south to north and to have it stop in that community, to have our own speakeasies and have our own movie theater, the Rialto Theater, right where the King Center is, that was a movie theater. Learners, the car dealership was right there. The historic spaces where schools were located in that area, what we call the Rock Island Academy now was Hawthorne Urban, and it began on that side of town as well. Orthodox synagogue there, where you would see the Jewish community walking the Sabbath, to honor the Sabbath, to worship. That was all on that side of town. And after that, and I'm not saying it was all bad, but I am saying, why don't we have the influx of small businesses that we had there? And what we have there now, and I'm in the middle of this, is the only thing that's standing there now are a number of churches and nonprofits trying to soak up the residue of hope and trying to spring forth a new stream of life. Fighting hard, but we need an economy there. You can't rebuild this devastated, economically devastated community solely on the backs of nonprofits. And neither can downtown survive without the partnership in the provision of its nonprofits.
Yeah.
We need each other.
Yeah.
And if you have all of one thing and not the other, that's not a community. And any community that thinks it can solely invest in brick and mortar without investing in souls and human beings is going to miss something terribly. And,
you know, this historic agency, it's been around since 1968. It's more than a service delivery provider. It is an organizer. In some ways, you probably function in your relationships across the state as a think tank, as a advisor on how to do policy, how, like Project Renewal that didn't renew cities. Some of the ways we do housing and poverty policy now serve to probably further disadvantage people rather than ever give them a chance to actually get out of poverty. So when did, for this current kind of controversy, when did it come to the attention of Project Now that you were not viewed as being a positive part of the downtown or a positive partner? I know you have about 42 people who work in your location where the building you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that those 42 people helped keep that area afloat in terms of frequenting restaurants and being involved when nobody was there. I mean, the building you're in now was empty for 7 years.
Absolutely.
It was a ghost town, and your employees were some of the only everyday people down here eating and contributing to the economy when no one was here. But it seems now that the renovations have occurred, that the renewal is upon us, that it's like there's something weird going on here with Project Now specifically. So we don't know each other. This is the first time we've met, but I had written some articles because I was really concerned about just the homeless population, and that this new moratorium that they're trying to put in place wouldn't really help homeless folks because it focuses on the nonprofits themselves. It limits the number of shelters to 1 day, 1 night. It puts barriers in place to where those can be located. It has weird requirements like people can't store their things, which we know is really important for people who need to go to job interviews. And also, if you think about homelessness in a triangle with those with the greatest need at the tip of the triangle, oftentimes those are people who can't engage in services because of maybe a mental health barrier or a substance abuse barrier. And so the people who need the most help and may be the most visibly problematic to a business owner or a consumer wanting to shop, the ordinance doesn't get at all at solutions for that population, whether that's rapid rehousing, increasing substance abuse treatment, having social workers on the street, interacting with people, gauging what their needs are, helping connect them to services. There's so many, housing is the solution, but there's so many things. So I kind of went to the city with this argument of like, this isn't really going to help homeless people. Because I thought, to your point, what's the main thing? I thought the main thing was homelessness. And in further conversations with city leadership, and it became this story about Project Now being almost like a bad actor. And that is not my understanding of it, having tried to do my own research and learning, for example, that your organization fields, 100,000 phone calls a month, that you help over 12,000 people, individual, unique people. You run the LIHEAP program. You do work with seniors. I mean, what do you guys do? Maybe that's
So this is a great lead in, and I'm going to segue very quickly. Outside of the model cities coming to an end, and the organizers that were doing that work, and seeing a lot of the blight in urban realities, when I say urban blight and neglect, be mitigated with raising or tearing down structures and things of that matter. The other thing that happened in '68 that gave us our birth is not just the end of model cities, but also the assassination of Dr. King, April 4th, 1968, on that Memphis balcony between room 305 and 306 at about 6:05, somewhere around there at p.m., where an assassin bullet broke through his side of his jaw and neck and silenced the voice and life. Of course, we thank God for the season of his words and his work and his witness, because those will always live on. But those two realities created a tension in Rock Island, racial and economic, and that's what started us. Two clergy came together with lay people, and so we've always been intertwined between a faith tradition that is expressed non-discriminatory, which our founders that helped us get started, and then with a $12,500 grant from John Deere, we got off the ground. And John Deere gave us our first interim and our first full-time loan experts. They used to call the loan expert program, where they were still employees of John Deere, but they worked in a nonprofit. The King Center was also privileged in that same way. Our first executive director was a loan expert from John Deere there too. And in those days, Project Now was adjacent to the King Center, just doors away from each other, and we shared a lot of the same staff, same realities. Fast forward to where we are now, back in those days, we used to get in a lot of trouble because people needed something. And there was one place for them to get it. It's through the places in the portals of power. So we had to bring the plight of the poor and the predicament of the so-called powerless before the systems of power to make sure they were not trampled under feet. And then we grew out to be a social service delivery system, But we started with rallies and bringing people together and voicing the needs of the people to make sure power wouldn't overlook, to make sure power wouldn't crush, to make sure power wouldn't marginalize, that power will be used for good. And power in and of itself is not bad. It is what we do with power. It's what we do with our high seats of privilege and exposure. If I'm not speaking up about this, shame on me. Knowing my experiences, what I have been blessed and fortunate and privileged to experience in this world, to have worked on the mean streets of Boston when they were running red with blood from young people, and to be part of the second wave of ministers that went out as a part of the Boston Miracle, where there was 2.5 years without a youth act of death or murder. Went 2.5 years without a youth murder on the streets of Boston because clergy hit the streets. And we created systems and we partnered with local law enforcement and we figured it out. Hard conversations, but no one ever walked away from the table because we had a hard conversation. So I'm used to having hard conversations, whether it's Sacramento, Omaha, Nebraska, where we had the highest concentration of black childhood poverty in the entire United States.
Wow.
And if you don't think I had to raise my voice on that, and to say, how can we have at least 2 billionaires in the city? Omaha at that time made more millionaires per capita than any other city in the United States. And we have that type of poverty.
Is that where Warren Buffett lives?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm telling you, if we're thinking that the needs of the people are going to be submitted in an email, then we're fooling ourselves. We need to bring the needs of the people before the systems of power to be able to address it. Because that's all politics is. It's a distribution of political goods, of housing, healthcare, education, economics, and justice. That's why it's important for us to be involved beyond what it benefits us. And so the people, how do we go from being a team of individuals that were lauded and praised to being hated because we made of the poor our friend?
And is that
because we had unarmed truth, because we were going to make sure we stood up for people whose voice wasn't as loud as ours.
What was the moment where you first caught wind that advocacy was rubbing people the wrong way?
Think about it now. In 2021, the city, which Dillon was a part of the nomination committee, or at least part of the committee that voted, awarded us with Citizen of the Year.
In 2021?
Yes. Think about that.
Were you in the building you're in now?
No, we were in the one across from the library.
Okay. So in 2021, you're in the building across from the library. You're Citizens of the Year.
In the parade, lead car, convertible.
You're leading the Rock Island Parade.
Yes.
And what transpires? Like, what do you think this is really about? Because when I met with Dylan, it sounded like, he was kind of offended that I suggested that the problem was visible homelessness and people having difficulty with looking at the pain of our society. Homelessness is not going away.
Right.
People in this economy are hurting. It's going to get worse. We're destroying social safety nets. This is a pain. It's an exiled part of a community that holds pain is our homeless population. And people don't like to look at it. It's like... No, it's a mirror. So homelessness is a mirror. Unfortunately, most people would prefer a window. Yeah.
But when you see homelessness, it's a mirror.
And when it makes you uncomfortable, you should sit with that discomfort and investigate it and wonder about it and wonder if it makes your shopping trip less pleasurable. Is that something to make go away so that you can shop with less feelings? Or is it something to show you that, how am I supposed to feel about the inequality in my society? And am I called to do anything about that? And so it's an invitation to explore your own moral landscape. So I thought this issue was about people don't like to do that. They want to go buy their things and eat at their restaurants, and they don't want to see the pain of our civilization.
Right.
So when I raised that to Dylan, he said, no, everyone loves all the homeless people. This is not about them at all.
That's not true. I can tell you it's not true, and I want to be very direct. I won't dodge a question you ask me. I want to be very direct with that. When we started asking us So this is how things turn very quickly. Nominated for a Citizen of the Year, we win. We go down there for the photo op and sit on the car and wave. Very proud of that because I'm a Rock Islander. I've always served Rock Island. I've pastored in 2 churches in Rock Island. And I came back for the first stint working as an organizer with the Lone View Mobilization Project and assistant pastor of Greater Antioch Baptist Church. I'm proud of my time in Rock Island. And anybody that says or feels that there's any other reason for me to do what I do don't know me. They do not know me. I'm in this city 7 days a week, and I would gladly put my record up alongside of anybody that claimed to be true to Rock Island. Not as a sense of competition, but as a comparative to say I have vested my life and still do in this city that I love. So we go from that, and then we started working on statewide projects. The budget increases. We're going through the worst time of COVID. We do exceptional work.
You were hired in March of 2020. So
I got hired the first day of COVID.
Oh, my God.
March 20th,
oh my gosh.
2020. I was walking in and all my staff was walking out. I was left with 6 people to keep all of our sites open because we could not close a site. And we figured it out and worked 12, 15 hours a day taking care of people because we were not going to shut a door. And when we couldn't let them in the building, we opened up windows and did walk-up windows and put tents outside so they wouldn't get burned by the heat and gave them water as they came up. I tore down an entire office suite of rooms and separate rooms and made a large room so we could get them in out of the air and out of the climate. We did everything we could to save lives. And I'm proud of that team. During that time, I had 2 team members die in my building, taking care of people. Oh. Died literally in my building. One was still on the phone trying to complete the transaction with the people. And we had to help take his hand off the receiver to put him on a stretcher that he never got up from. But fighting for folks. The other one taking a first step, trying to come back in the building after a short lunch and collapsed right there and never got up.
Wow.
So.
And I asked myself, what was I doing during that time? I was hiding in my house, afraid to see or touch anyone.
Yeah. We had volunteer drivers, people that said, I'll drive just for free to make sure those seniors got home delivered meals. We were building protocols as soon as we could to take care of folks. During that whole season, we were going through the worst and doing our best, taking care of people. I had 2 older persons come to me, Dylan was one of them, and said, could you help? The library feels like they got some challenges with people experiencing homelessness. And I said, well, we'll do whatever we can. And at that time, I said, maybe this is a good season because someone is saying that our sister organization, Humility, may not open up the winter overflow. There's probably only one other organization that can step up and take it. It'll be us.
So until that moment in time, there was none
conflict,
at all. No drama.
I'll tell you this. When I say none at all, I say that tongue in cheek. You know that when we purchased the building was a major challenge. And if you read Tom Lowry's piece on about 2 weeks ago in the Sunday paper, where former Mayor Tome said they had plans for the building, the Class A building that we purchased, the building that sat vacant for all those years.
So there's a big black windowed building on the corner right across from Soy 2 and from El Patron, and that used to be where the Blues Brothers statue was outside. There was a big fountain.
Former Wells Fargo, lower level.
That building was empty for about 7 years, and you were looking to move and wanted to purchase that building. And did they actively try to stop you from purchasing it?
I will tell you this. We looked in every city. My board told me go where the best opportunity is. And I never wanted to leave Rock Island. And I said, I will go and look for the best opportunity. But deep down inside, I wanted to be here. We have the worst numbers of concentrated poverty in the entire Quad City region. Rock Island does right now. The worst number of disconnected youth from 16 to 24 that are not in high school or not working. I wanted to be here We have the oldest housing stock in a concentrated area that's dilapidated in the entire Quad Cities happening here. We got 1,900 housing units, 1,900 of them that are vacant. I wanted to be here. We got empty lots that haven't been revitalized for decades. I wanted to be here. This is where this is ground zero. That's why the whole work of West End revitalization was possible, because the need was there.
46% of our West End friends live in poverty.
That's right. And so I'm not saying other cities don't have as much poverty or
Well,
what I'm saying.
They don't.
I'm not saying that they don't have their own challenges. I'm not trying to deter the fact that every city has to deal with something. I'm saying why I wanted to stay here, because I know the numbers.
And was that building a good opportunity for the price and at that
Absolutely. So that was our best, and to consolidate, because right now we still have the feds there. And although it was vacant in many spaces, it was being utilized by the federal government from the courthouses, which is across the street from us, moving into their new place. So they rented that building out. So it had movement in it, but it was the federal government, only thing that was really keeping that Starcrest building open. We made a deal, and to even talk about how we got into the fuss of downtown, they didn't even know I was buying it. I had already purchased the building. So Alderman Jenny Swanson, who at that time was an ally to our work, we had worked on some things, and to her credit, because I'm fair, I'll tell people thank you when they do something, and to her credit, she said, well, we got ARPA dollars, and we have created a group subcommittee to decide how we're going to invest these dollars to nonprofits. Up until that point, I didn't attend. You can check the record. Our agency didn't attend one of those meetings of nonprofits going to the city to see if they could get ARPA dollars. Not one of them.
It was brought to you.
It was brought to us.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we could sure use some renovations dollars. We're going to purchase that building. When I made that presentation to the city council, that's when it dawned on them that I was purchasing that building. The plane was already off the runway in the air. And I said respectfully to them, because it became something of major discord. I mean, the nasty letters I received in emails, not letters, but emails, saying you should take your work to the West End where it'd be better received.
Wow.
How racialized and insulting. And just a few years ago, the census tract where our building is located, a portion of it, the median income was just $12,000. I know where I am supposed to be. And frankly, I have a board of directors, and I have a competent, capable staff that have already done the research and know where we should be. And so it became, and in the middle, you could check the record of the tape. I say to them, as I'm getting ready to part, Mayor Tomes wasn't there the day they were taking the vote, whether or not to move the money. If they decided to give it to someone else, that would have been fine. But show me another organization that is as large as us, that has done as much as we have, that has the capacity to move these dollars and utilize them, not for my salaries, for my people, but expand the space. Because I had gone from 5 people to almost 12 people working in the homeless division programming, homeless prevention and housing initiatives. We were blowing up. We were expanding overnight, and I needed these. So I told them, I said, with all due respect, you misunderstand why I'm here. I didn't come to you with my hand up begging you for anything. I don't need your pity. And I said that respectfully to them. Because if there's anything I am, I'm respectful. My father taught me that. My mother taught me to be respectful to all, but I fear none. I cannot live in fear. And what people call unaccountable to the city, I would say we're unbossed and unbought to the city. And we will remain that way. So I said, I didn't come to you with my palms up. I actually came to you like this, in partnership. I want to partner with you. That means you make an investment and you will receive the yield of return. We're going to house people in this city, and which we have done. I know the numbers. So they said, well, that building we could have got $55,000, $60,000 of taxes. Yeah. Let's call it a wash, because I spent about $65,000 of gas with the city gas pumps that I fill up my fleet of vehicles, 55 of them, at your gas pumps. I could take that contract and take it anywhere. I choose to do it in Rock Island because I'm your partner.
Yeah.
I know how much money we move in LIHEAP. Rock Island right now gets the lion's share of LIHEAP, over $6 million that we invest in the lives of 3 counties. Rock Island gets the lion's share because of the need is here. Our senior services, who benefits the most out of it in proximity to the 11th Street location? Rock Islanders do. What I'm saying to you is that if Rock Island didn't have Project Now, you think we got challenges. And I'm not beating up on my chest. If Rock Island didn't have what they are calling right now a drain, which is the nonprofits downtown, because they can't attract businesses yet, nonprofits have taken advantage of the buildings that are available. And they bring a staff to that location. They bring disposable income to that location. They bring a sense of life and energy to that location. If nonprofits would stop providing service for a day in the city of Rock Island, emergency calls would go like this. Hospital rooms would be filled. If we stopped providing services for a day, people would not get food. Children would be disaffected. If we stopped providing services for a day, that Rock Island would cease to be Rock Island, a place where it's always been the gem of the Quad Cities because of the treasure of its people. While some may invest, and I'm not saying it's wrong, we own property downtown too. I want downtown to flourish. I absolutely do. My first cousin that grew up right behind me, he owns a business downtown. We support them businesses downtown. I tell my staff to go down and spend dollars downtown. We are a good neighbor. Mm-hmm. To be fair to the businesses, this didn't start with Project Now, and I take all type of a rebuttal opportunity that Alderman Parker said it all started with Project Now, open up the shelter. It's not true. Those businesses have been suffering since the era of the bar district. Mm-hmm. Check the record. Anybody can FOIA the information of the police calls and the violence that was happening downtown. And many of the businesses have not recovered since then. Then when they finally started to recover, there was some discord with city staff and with some of the businesses that wanted more support. And some of them packed their bags and left. I know because they told me why they were leaving.
Yeah, I'm actually forming a little support group of businesses that have left Rock Island. And it's very anonymous because they are afraid to be known. But
that's right.
To kind of give me a perspective of like, why did businesses leave?
And they'll tell you freely if they feel that you're going to be. That's why I didn't mention any of them by name.
Yeah.
But they told me because I was a friend to them.
Yeah.
They told me why they were leaving. And then COVID hit.
Oh.
Then after COVID, they thought that they could finally take a breath. Then the construction hit for almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so then we opened up the shelter, and they felt as if this was a straw that broke the back. Now, to be fair to the business owners, it did not start with us. But I do not say that they haven't had a challenge on their hands, and they're just trying to survive. So for people that don't think, sometimes people look at you, you're just a bleeding heart liberal, you don't care about what business and all this, you probably hate free market and all this kind of stuff and capitalism. My family are serial entrepreneurs. I know what it feels like to take your life savings and invest in something and watch it grow. You don't understand that. And I said this before to some of them. My undergrad is in business. Mm-hmm. My doctoral studies has a component, not just of theology, but economy and economics at Northwestern, at the Kellogg School of Management. Mm-hmm. You don't understand me. You don't understand our work. Rather than ask me, you make heavy assumptions about what we're attempting to do. Project Now has been working on starting a cafe downtown. Miles and the rest of the staff, Todd knows that. We've never been shy about telling them we want to open up commerce and business. A nonprofit can own a for-profit. And we've been wanting to open up opportunities downtown. So for me, I come from an experience. The last organization I led in Omaha, we started 2 businesses that are still there with that agency I led.
Yeah.
This has been my track record. But you don't know that. And you don't care to know that.
Yeah, and my take on it is, so some of this is about real estate. It's about prime real estate. It's about so many things that are not the homeless population, and that's what's frustrating about it.
So thank you. Keep that thought right there. How many times have you heard them say, the goal is to end homelessness as we know it?
Never.
Thank you. So what I'm telling you, if it is what it is supposed to be about, then we would say it out loud. I've never been unclear about what we're attempting to do. We're trying to bring the city of Rock Island to functional zero, which is when homelessness, if it is experienced, is brief, rare, and non-reoccurring. I've been clear about that. How many of the older persons have said that?
Well, what Dylan told me is that this moratorium is a movement to give the city a lever to pull against nonprofits. That it is designed so that the city can regulate the existence of a nonprofit, which terrifies me. Because
so why would you want to control something unless it's out of fear?
Right.
And why would you fear the very people that are running toward the challenges to help the city take care of its deep challenges? Out of everything that we've been talking about, the city will barely recognize. When I say city, I'm being very inclusive. I'm not saying all. 116% increase in the state of Illinois homelessness, 44% increase right here. We're number 6. The greater Rock Island County is number 6 in deep poverty in the state of Illinois. And that's 1/2, a portion of your population, a significant portion living at 1/2 of the federal poverty level. What I'm trying to tell you is that the storm is already here. And that is not to say that we're not going to go even deeper in it with the proposed cuts in 2026. And you're limiting our ability to help the city become what the city ought to be for all of its citizens. For all of its citizens. All of its citizens.
Yeah, and I mean, we're so like-minded. I told my husband that I was going to struggle in this interview because I'm like, I know that I'm going to be on board with this guy. Like, we're going to be simpatico. But even this gentleman I met last week who's homeless, he's been living for 6 weeks in the Christian care shelter. I just had a long conversation with him about, what are his main challenges? What are the solutions? And so he texted me yesterday and said that he got a job at a local, because he was a machinist. He was a teamster. He got bronchitis. He got knocked out of his job for it because it was very profound and it made him very sick. And he needed a place to get back on his feet. He's not from this area originally. He's from Chicago. He is now a machinist at a company that needed a skilled laborer to. So I feel
imagine
like
that people that are actually sleeping in a shelter. So I would ask how many of our city staff and older persons ever been in a shelter?
Well, I think there's a tendency to overlook that the biggest resource you have as a city is the people who live in that city.
That's
that
right.
As human beings, we all have gifts and talents and abilities, sometimes access to capital and things that help people to flourish in using their skills and talents and abilities can be unevenly distributed. But I think the city is doing itself a disservice by overlooking a population of humans who can contribute to the economy of a city.
Some of them are already.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked how many have gone in a shelter. See, you're talking to somebody that doesn't do this work because I get paid to do it. Before I became the project now director, I was taking people every Friday night to King's Harvest to volunteer in the shelter for the whole season.
Yeah.
This has been my life. So unless you know who's there, and when I used to take the group over to King's Harvest, mostly men, I would have some women, young men that I was mentoring, take them there. So we go out and we drive the van, look for folk on the street. If they were standing outside, we give them a sack lunch. If we had the hot meal that night, if it was our responsibility to serve the hot meal, we would serve the hot meal plus give out the sacks. We would give hand warmers, gloves, hats, sleeping bags to everyone that we saw. We would drive around for about a couple of hours and then end up there. You know how many people I would come out of there in the morning and go to work? So right here at ours, we served 180 unduplicated for the 12 weeks that we were open, 90 days. We had people there from John Deere that got laid off, lost custody of their children inside of that. And we housed that individual, got custody of the child again and is working and taking care of themselves well beyond us. In 12 weeks, everyone said that we would never be able to case manage because it's a low barrier. It's a high concentration of folks that are experiencing the worst. 10 to 15% of the population nationally are severely mentally ill. Most people with mental illness, even in the Quad Cities or nationally, are functional, meaning that they're on meds. They see a psychiatrist, psychologist, or they work through their challenges, and they have medication at times, and they may have an episode, but they work through life. This group that is on the grounds and feet on the street in the winter, those are the most severe cases of mental illness. 2, most people that are addicted or addicts in America are functionally addicted. That's not to make light of it, but they got family members. They may splurge, blow all the money. Family steps in, try to undergird. They're able to keep an apartment. Maybe it's for the sole work of their partner or spouse in the house that keeps money coming in and balances it out. And, they may get sober for 2 or 3 years and then relapse. The people on the street, those are the severe cases. And generally it's 10 to 15%, somewhere around in there, that are severely addicted and severely mentally ill. Even at its highest numbers, that gives me 30%. That means 70% are available to us to case manage. I know the numbers.
And the most devastating thing about this moratorium is it's going to mostly impact that 70%, the
That's right.
mothers and babies and seniors and, people who have suffered health setbacks.
That's
and
right.
It's going to hurt them without ever helping any of the people in that 30%.
That's right.
It's
so
stupid.
They've tied their hands in the fight
hands.
against poverty, in the fight against homelessness.
So you're this extremely qualified community partner to help this city with its number one obstacle, which is our high poverty rate. And the city, rather than partner with you,
Not once has the city ever come and say, we would love to partner with you
on poverty policy.
None.
We don't really have poverty policy, even though our poverty, and I wonder too, my take on the city in some ways is it's been a city that has functioned for some on top of poverty. So being a poor city, there's a functionality there. There are tax dollars that come in. There are incentives for
and they write for the grants.
You can write for grants. You can bring in a developer who's going to, bring their arms of their for-profits in to do the work.
That's right.
But the people in the city since you were a child, since I was a child, have not gotten more wealthy, more prosperous, but some small segment has, and it's a city that if you're in the know, you know.
So you have to ask yourself, why do we keep depopulating? When I first arrived here in 2012, I was the director of the King Center. That's how I got back here from Omaha, Nebraska. I had been wanting to come back to the area. We were 45,000, close to 46. 36,000 and still going backward? Mm-hmm. Why? Because people are starting to say the only way to move up in Rock Island is move out.
Yep.
And I'm trying to anchor people here. And
there's this weird thing for my life is intentionally living in Rock Island. You talked about the families that intentionally locate somewhere.
That's right.
Because most of the kids from my high school class, most of my peers have gone to bigger cities, or if they've chosen to be in Rock Island, they've gone to different cities in the Quad Cities that are richer, basically, like more affluent.
Absolutely.
And so there is, but some of my ideas for Rock Island is that, I don't know, this probably sounds woo-woo, but the point of life is to be in a community and to be with people and to live in the world that you actually live in. And if you move away and put yourself behind a gate and then a bridge, and then so that you never have to see the world that you actually live in, and you can kind of live in a fairy tale that's not reality. To me, that just, I'd rather live here and be a part of my community and love people and be connected. But I think that there is also an opportunity to use that as a recruiting tool to get like-minded people to move to Rock Island. I mean, the fact that you have all this education and world experience, I think Rock Island could be a hub of social ingenuity, that we are, we have Modern Woodman, which is an insurance provider. We have a hospital. We have a university. We have a strong social service provider downtown. We have Robert Young Center that maybe
Christian Care.
Christian Care.
Yeah,
maybe
third place.
Yeah, the third place, the
YW.
library, the YW, that is there an identity here that is different, that sets us apart from our neighbors of come live among your fellow Americans and, do social entrepreneurship. Bring a think tank here, a policy think tank to look at, because Rock Island's cool in the sense that it is so diverse, that it reflects the bigger systems that the whole country is grappling with on this micro level. And, if we could figure out how to do it here, why can't Illinois figure out how to do it? Why can't the country figure out how to do it? But I'm frustrated with the city because I feel like in you, we have a strong social service partner, a strong leader. Maybe part of the problem is that, like you said, you're not willing to be treated differently than a for-profit. Like sometimes I ran a nonprofit, Edgerton Women's Health Center in Davenport.
Oh, thank you.
And sometimes there is this, if you're a nonprofit, you need to be the one that acquiesces. You need to be the one that plays nice. You can't have boundaries for yourself and your mission because you're almost in a relationship, the feminine in the relationship to the masculine. Like you need to be the peacemaker. You need to be the softer one. And so to have a strong nonprofit leader that says, this is my mission, these are the assets and the social entrepreneurship and the businesses that we're going to run, to not back down, to not necessarily like play nice with the city. That doesn't mean you're not a nice person, but maybe even that model of operating is I don't even know. I'm not articulating myself well.
No, I think I caught you very clear. I think you've done a well job.
So the businesses are struggling, and this nonprofit is here, and the city puts you together in a room and has this expectation that as the nonprofit, you will take care of the business owners. You will do all the extra work of managing homelessness that is outside your purview. You've signed up to run this overnight shelter from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., but that you will, with your limited resources and budget and decreased funding, you will pick up any pieces and you will make nice and you will, when really that is the job of the city. Thank
you. When have you ever known a city to make significant gains with solving major challenges in education, healthcare, housing, justice-related realities without being a partner? And including the business community. I had talked with one business owner and said, "This is not my problem." I said, "Oh, yes, it is. We're all in.
We're all in. Hot water is by saying we're all in this together. We all have a responsibility. Is that what got you in hot water?
I can't speak for how they view it, but I'll tell you that when I walked into some of the businesses, and I've never called businesses out, so if they would have ever, you could check the record. I don't even call the council out by name, and I have receipts. When I tell you I got text messages and emails, I could call them out by name to show that I know how to fight a good fight, a fight that's worth fighting, because I'm not going to let you make this between me and you. This is about the people we're trying to take care of. Half the people that are the loudest about what we're not have interest in downtown. Money moving for them, or something they're upset about with us that we did not provide for a tenant that was living in one of their properties. Some of the people that come and fuss about what we're not doing is because they were upset because they were thinking that they were going to get money out of this deal. What I'm trying to do is keep the fight where it needs to be. But when I walk into a business and you start yelling at me and my staff, because I would always go with someone, and fussing and think I'm not going to stop the conversation and say, "I'm sorry, I came here for a conversation." Then you try to play victim in saying that we were mean. No, I wasn't mean. I was very direct. Because we're not going to come in here and be accosted or beat over the head and yelled at and fussed at like we are some children. I am not in nonprofit work because I'm a flunky out of corporate America, that I couldn't find a job in corporate America. I'm in this work because I am called to this work. And I do this work very well. And I know when people say, well, they don't have anything that holds them accountable, I run about 42 Fed and state grants. If you know anything about a Fed and state grant, that's why we didn't even go down there. when they were trying to figure out about ARPA dollars, because we had a flow of resources.
What's your budget? Isn't it 20-some million per year?
It is.
So you're managing a $20 million budget.
And when I started, we were 12.5.
Wow.
In 2020. So what I'm telling you is that when people talk about
And
who we're not, and these are the same individuals that have never led an organization, that have to worry about payroll, that have never worked with the human bodies of an individual sitting outside your building at 4:45 p.m. on a Friday, and you know you got the clock ticking at 5, and you're trying to see how you're going to help a mother with 2 children in the back of an SUV with everything they own, and they're saying, I have nowhere else to go. They told me to come to Project Now, and I know that most of the nonprofits that I need to be able to associate with and work with that night are going to close their door in about 10 minutes. And I got to try to figure that out. Tell me which one of them walk out the door on Friday night having to deal with who they couldn't help.
Yeah.
And seeing their faces. They see numbers. I know these people's lives.
Yeah.
Tell me how many of the homes they went in and seeing water running down it because water runs in from the roof and slumlords won't take care of. While you're trying to fight us, take care of all those violations of ordinances out of property owners in the city of Rock Island that need someone to hold them accountable while you're trying to hold nonprofits accountable who are already accountable. I'm raked over the coals by HUD, IDHS, by IDA, all these major contracts.
You're subject to independent financial audits. You're being reviewed and monitored all the time. That's the sad thing for this ordinance, is to regulate and license people who, as social service providers, often have very many
tremendous
layers
Office of Children and Families with Headstart.
Yeah.
I am raked over the coals, which we say, and for us to operate that budget at what we have and operate at a 5, sometimes 6% at the highest administrative fee cost, tell me who does that.
So that means that for every dollar you spend,
95 cents is going out the door.
Goes directly to a consumer, to a client,
Yes.
basically. Wow.
So when they have the nerve to try to talk about what we're not, you should do some homework first.
So you're this valuable, strong community partner, but the way that you operate is not to, you're not operating in a lens of kind of like minimizing your mission in order to placate, or you're not going to undermine your own mission on behalf of a city. So you want to work with the city.
I would love to work with them.
And one thing that's interesting to me is that as I found out more that this issue is not about homelessness, it is about relationships between social service providers, business owners, and the city, that Project Now had actually put forth a Good Neighbors program.
Yes, we did.
You know, nobody's paying you for that. You're not getting compensated for that, but you're trying to bring together the different players, and a big part of that is to outline the expectations of who can do what, who can't do what. So, you know, the city walks you into opening the shelter. It's done in 6 weeks. Nobody died. It saved lives. 8 people were housed as a result of it.
And by the way, we couldn't even open the door without the city's support.
Yeah.
And I've given them credit for that. They bypassed one of their own ordinances, and we put into the daily operation of fire watch because we didn't have a sprinkler system. And at that particular time, I told them, you have my word, I will never operate another shelter out of this location. Now people are going around and saying, of course, we can't allow them to do another overnight winter overflow shelter, low barrier, because he already said he would never do it again. I've never said that. But I said I can't and will not operate it out of this building again. Out of old and appreciation for the city that gave me an opportunity to take care of people and secure and save lives for that season, I said, because we don't have the sprinkler system, you don't have to worry. I won't operate out of this building again, any shelter.
And you did it in 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And you saved lives, and people were housed, and a baby as little as 6 months old and a senior as old as 73.
That's right.
Were safe from the elements. And was it
3 families during that time?
Was it overwhelming? Did it go perfectly?
No,
because
no.
any business venture, any entrepreneur, anybody will tell you the first time you do something, there are going to be kinks. You have to work through it. But what I am bothered by is that somehow, because you opened the shelter, all became your job. And this division of labor in the relationships, you know, the city had legwork to do. The alderperson in this ward had legwork to do. It wasn't just on you guys to prepare everyone. And when business owners started to complain and give pushback, you did go meet with them to say, here's what we can do.
To the mayor's credit, to the ones he sent me, he would text me immediately. When I'm talking about mayor, at the time it was Mayor Tomes. Mayor Tomes and I haven't agreed on everything. But I would stand up in a meeting and say, thank you for sending those text messages, because I met with those businesses. Was it easy meetings? Absolutely not. But they were necessary meetings. And I'm not afraid of creative tension, because if it can get us to a better solution by asking the hard questions behind closed doors.
It's a better community to live in too. Like when you said earlier that when you meet with someone, they're really going to know you.
Yes.
You're not going to go in and hide your intentions.
No.
Or it's not playing nice, but it's, like I love Sarah and Jose. I think they're awesome. This is actually their property. I rent from them.
Wonderful.
I've heard them talk about coming to Rock Island and being blown away by the generosity of the people who eat in their restaurant. They've never worked anywhere where you don't know what anyone has or doesn't have. People are buying each other meals. They're taking care of people. So, but they are also had their streets torn up. They've gone through COVID. They've
had their experiences, and we've met with them.
Yeah.
And we had a good conversation. When I say good, it wasn't a perfect conversation. The city manager was there. Alderman Parker was there. Ron, my chief of operations, was there. And we all sat at the table. And Sarah and Jose, they flushed out all their challenges. I put ours on the table. It got tense. No one ever was disrespectful.
Yeah.
No one was ever disrespectful. And I said, well, I understand we have some challenges. Here's my card. When you need us, you call us. If you're overwhelmed, call us. We'll be here in less than 15 minutes.
And that's part of that good neighbors agreement that you put forward at the...
Every time he called, we were there. Every time we would make it there less than 15 minutes. Called on a Sunday morning. I'm on my way to worship, and I still had someone there in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Sunday morning.
And part of that was that the shelter was far away from where people could get food. There was nowhere to be during the day, so they had to come to your other location for warming. So it almost set up a circuit that people had to walk along, and there were businesses that were on that circuit.
On that circuit, which we've never denied.
And so, but that's not like, it doesn't make Project Now an enemy. It's and this ordinance they're writing is going to guarantee that there will be circuits because they're stopping people with being 1,000 feet together. And so they're going to set up circuits where there will be traffic moving by businesses. And I guess what is unfortunate to me is that the city had a responsibility to say, this is a problem that the city is encountering. And we have a responsibility to come up with solutions to address this issue. That just because Project Now held the shelter did not make Project Now responsible for 100% of the solutions, including what people did during the day. That wasn't your responsibility, but you did step up to the plate and say, okay, we'll let people into our
new facility, new lobby, new lobby. I didn't even think twice about it. But new furniture, and for half of the season, because we were partners with our dear and abiding friends at Christian Care, Frank and Cindy, of course, they took the second half of the season. So 21 out of the 24 hours, they were with us, except for the weekends.
And that's not what you signed up for when you said you'd do
and I did it because it was right to do.
Yeah. And
it put an enormous weight and stress. We're getting ready, as you noted. Tell me if the city ever received over, I don't know how many phone calls. That when we run our numbers and look at 100,000 calls in a service.
A month, I think.
So we shut down the whole system. We crashed the system twice. People say, well, it's so long to get to. Yeah, because people are in need. And we had to go to a call system reality. When you serve 12,000 unduplicated individuals who come back to you 3 or 4 times each themselves, the city has no idea of what we do and who we serve. If I showed those alder persons the numbers of people in their ward that we take care of, 51% of Americans right now can't afford a $400 emergency. 1 out of 5 of our children are food insecure.
I thought it was 60% can't afford a $400 emergency.
So think about that. Who are we talking about? Yeah. It's not them, it's us.
Well, and our median income is $57,000 a year in Rock Island.
Yes.
Which is the lowest of any of the Quad Cities.
That's right.
Our average home price is $118,000 median home price, lowest of any of the Quad Cities.
That's right.
So if, I do think we need regional partners. And what I've told Dylan is, why can't Rock Island lead the way and say, we're going to figure out how to do this and make it more likely that Moline will do it, or East Moline. But Bettendorf only has a 6% poverty rate.
Right.
Ours is 20 point something. It doesn't make sense for Bettendorf to have a shelter, because that is not where the people
Right.
are living. Yeah, so there's all these
But do they know what other cities are planning? No. So they're assuming other cities
are doing nothing.
Are doing nothing, and they have over-assumed that they've done everything, but yet they want to take credit for what they're doing, but yet they penalize the organization that stepped up to do the most. So you're not doing anything. You should say Project Now has done, because you're taking credit for something that you have. Now, you have shared your portion. As long as Davenport was running the winter overflow shelter, Rock Island city government had nothing to say about it. They would be glad to send their folks that are suffering in the winter at night over there.
Yeah.
The moment we did it, now they did it for almost, 20 years, 2 decades. We do it for 12 weeks and we fall apart.
Well,
so what does that say? What does that say about us?
And that is I guess, one thing I'm taking away from this conversation with your history of working for social justice, and, that people have put their lives on the line, and we crumbled at 12 weeks. Not because the services weren't provided, we did that part,
Right.
but because the grown-ups in the room couldn't talk to one another and get their acts together to, kind of rally around solutions. And the city has to be a leader in that. I hope moving forward, I think Mayor Harris, we went to high school together.
Wonderful.
I feel like he will be a leader in that, although we have a weak mayor system. But
that's right.
The other thing is, I feel like a lot of people who live in Rock Island have big hearts. They want to care for their neighbors. They feel deep, spiritual and lifestyle and whatever, just wanting to love your neighbors. And this, to me, this moratorium and this ordinance is antithetical to what it means to be a Rock Islander. So you want to regulate and legislate my ability to love people in my community. Right. It's just wrong. And I think part of the identity of Rock Island, building the economy, getting people to live here, is digging into, so I'm rambling, but this whole branding thing, we paid for all this downtown stuff, and Rock Island is now rolling out their branding kit. And the branding kit talks about the city of Rock Island having grit, having authenticity, right, where people can be people, everyone is welcome. You can, it's a place for it's got all these messages that also reinforce that this is the place where you care for people and where everybody can be and can find purpose and meaning and value and an economy. So they're rolling out this branding kit at the same time that they're trying to shut down the essential nature for what many of us it is to be a Rock Islander. I mean, if you look at this wall, Laura Mon,
I
Thurgood
see those,
Brooks,
all
Atticus,
the people that invest, Sharon Williams,
Isaac Carr, Demetrius, Rob, Christy, Holly, and I've invited a lot of people to come to the podcast, but this is our community.
It is.
We love people.
Yes.
And that is our identity, and that is how you convince in this Red Sea that we're in, where this little blue dot, there are people in Davenport and Bettendorf and, Sherrard who are disaffected by the cruelness of the policies and the way this country is going. And there is a safe haven here. We cannot follow suit to the cruelty of the world right now. We need to dig in and challenge those systems. In my mind, poverty work in general needs to be redone, and we need to be looking at systems and ways that get money into the hands of people who are poor, so that they don't have to jump through 7 hoops and do 6 backflips.
Well, we're doing that with the city of Moline right now.
Yeah.
So with the Level Up program, using cannabis dollars, we're able to do 36 families with a $400 investment that were challenged with poverty and having the challenge of housing instability. We make those investments into them.
And is that $400 per month per family, or a one-time $400?
$400 per month if you're in the part of that 36 individuals.
Wow.
And then we have a second cohort that they receive up to $2,000 for a one-time emergency, and that's case managed as well. And so we have 2 different pots to pull out of. If it's a one-time emergency, that $400 emergency and it's going to shut you out of work, and you're going to fall behind. We can make that and take care of your muffler, that drug, and tore down the exhaust system, get that fixed for you, and move on, or whatever the emergency may be. The other side, we don't put no hard stipulations around it. They're under case management. We ask open-ended questions. Majority of the money is used overwhelmingly for housing, for economic realities that they're falling short with bill pay and things of that matter. And if there is a case of transportation needs, I'm not talking about going out and buy a new car, but if something falls apart on the car, you got to get it fixed. That's where most of the money goes to. Right. So when people think that the $400 investment is going to be spent on, new cell phones and stuff like that, that's not true.
That's not what the research bears out.
That's exactly right. And these are fictitious understandings of misnomers and misinformation about our neighbors who are experiencing poverty. And sometimes the worst place to be is in someone else's imagination.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is so true. That is what I think, and that message you gave about the way that you did, I'm going to botch the language, but how your purpose in your religion is to extend beyond the people who worship at your church, yes, that it goes out into the community. We have not figured out how to do public policy yet that way in this country, and that is the basic flaw in our public policy, is that the people who write the policy, I feel like the Republicans want to ignore them, the Democrats want to control them, because they do not see in them the kind of like ability to do for their lives what they have reason to value.
And none of them are at the table.
So
when you're not at the table, and this is my whole problem.
And they can't get at the table because this
Thank you.
Okay, so this is my other analogy.
Tell
me what you think. America is a casino where the investor always wins. So you go to the casino, the house always wins. Mm-hmm. America is a casino, the investor always wins. You have to have chips to play. Mm-hmm. And the way we do our poverty policy is to say, not only do you get less chips than everyone, but you actually have to use your chips for like services. So take your chips over there to get your food, and take your chips over there to get your housing, and take them over here for your energy bill, and over here for some help with your car, and you're left with one chip. And wow. maybe if you get really, really lucky in this country, you can defy the odds and you'll be a billionaire. Who knows? But if you start out with some chips that you don't have to have micromanaged for you, and you get to start putting money on that table, you get to keep winning and winning and winning. And then the economy just becomes, people with a lot of chips are going to do great, and they'll do better and better and better. So now the CEO of Starbucks makes 666 times what the average worker makes. Right. They make like $9 billion, and the average worker makes $14,000 a year. And that is our system. And the way we do our poverty policy guarantees, in effect, that poor people will never not be poor, because they cannot use their money in ways that they have reason to value. Mm-hmm. So I see this all the time. I do a lot of work in Century Woods. You go out and get a job, you lose your housing. That's and you can't afford then you're going to be homeless.
Well, if you work overtime,
and
then your rent is adjusted for that check.
You cannot move in with a family member who has a disability, because now your numbers are off and you're going to get dinged. You can't allow your grown children to come back home with you while they have a part-time job and catch their breaths to then go out in the world, because you'll lose your housing. Mm-hmm. Everything is tied up. You can't have your partner live with you.
That's right.
It's tied up to separate families and to divide people, to basically destroy the kinship networks that you talked about when you moved here. You could have as many people as you wanted living in your house. You could work together to get ahead. You could pool your resources. You could decide that you wanted to invest in something. And the way we're doing poverty after 1996, basically, when they did the Personal Responsibility Work Opportunity Act, has destroyed
ending welfare as we know it.
That
was the language,
and setting it up so that you never get to participate in the casino that is America.
Peter Elderman walked out and discussed this. Peter Elderman, of course, was a brilliant mind that worked in the administration with Clinton.
And we forget that was a Democratic president.
Absolutely. And this is why I said poverty is not Democrat or Republican. Poverty is. It's an equal opportunity offender. And until we adjust our understanding, I fight at the state level. I'm on the Illinois Commission to End Poverty and Build Economic Security. Senate approved, of course, and governor seated. I work with the Office to Prevent and End Homelessness. And this is what I've been trying to tell the city of Rock Island. This moratorium is known by them. You're
putting yourself on the map for being the worst.
You are ensuring that you just won't hear from us, but people that have invested resources to move into the community to help stabilize this area are now concerned about what you've just done.
And
this is what they don't realize. So you talked about our greater Quad Cities. I cannot tell you. Now, I may not get all the appreciation or the agency appreciation for what we're doing here with some of the partners downtown or people that may not understand. But I used to lead Q 2030, the regional plan started in the chamber and then became its own separate 501c3. I was the board president for a season. And I am a past recipient of the Quad Citizen of the Year award. Folk know me throughout this entire region, and they quietly come up to you and say, we don't agree with nothing the city is doing against the work that you do. This city doesn't understand. We have friends, people that are deeply concerned about the people we care about, and they want our agency. Now, no one is saying they believe that Project Now has been a perfect institution. Any institution where you have so many moving parts is a work in progress. And I can make that same complaint about the city.
Well, and so much demand for the resources available. So I know Dylan complained that someone he was helping, didn't get a call back as soon as they wanted to or something like that. But I would say, okay, well.
I can bring to the table 10 people that have called the city and have not gotten a response.
Yeah,
about something. So if we want to play
I
tick
try to
for
loop
tat.
the new mayor in, and he's usually pretty good about, but I will email people and try to get responses, and nobody's perfect. And
That's right.
I also run a business, and so I would be the first to say that, you're not going to get perfect service. I don't require perfection out of people I work with. I require the best effort, and let's come together and talk about what's working and what's not and refine our process.
So for people that don't know, my staff, particularly during light heat, they're running about 4 appointments every hour, and they're doing it via phone because we're the #1 agency in the state for light heat distribution right here in Rock Island.
Wow.
The #1 state for accuracy. We had a 1%, less than a 1% denial rate.
Wow.
So are we perfect? No. We ran and facilitated the eviction diversion program during COVID with the 14th Judicial Court Circuit. We were seeing 12 to 14. We worked with our partners. We worked on it a year in advance to create this system during COVID that wouldn't allow people to be evicted without remedy. We had the 14th Judicial Court Circuit. We ended up with Judge Fitzsimmons that worked with us. We started early with a couple of judges. We pushed through with Salvation Army was with us that helped move money just as we did. The Rock Island County Bar Association, which I've given talks to and gone down and thanked them for their support. We had mediation attorneys from John Deere that we trained for the work and made sure that we had volunteers coming in. We, with Prairie State Legal Services, Legal Aid was at the table. We held this together from COVID until now, and we're down to maybe 3 evictions on a Friday. And we mediate. First hearing goes to us. We've changed laws. We had to go all the way to state to change the law so we could pull this off.
Wow.
We've changed laws here. Right now, we're the only agency, if you look at the Illinois State Guidebook, Law Enforcement Guidebook, that all of the officers coming out of Springfield get. We're the only nonprofit in that book. We're the consultant to it, helping law enforcement understand how to work with those that serve homeless communities, but also helping them understand people experiencing homelessness. And they going through the bureaucracy of getting it finalized. But when they do, every law enforcement officer in the state of Illinois will be advised on this handbook. We're the subject matter expert to it. I served at the highest level with the governor's office to prevent and end homelessness, and we worked on the first of its kind study was I was a part of a team of scholars and activists and advocates and social service providers that we worked for well over a year to produce the first study on ending black homelessness in the state of Illinois. Because the state of Illinois, and when you talk about blue and red and all of this, state of Illinois is number 2 with the disparity between white and black homelessness, where if you're a black in the state of Illinois, you're 8 times more likely to be experiencing homelessness. The only other state that had worse numbers is the state of New York, and they were 24 times.
And you just are like, and we're blue states. And
Yeah,
we have blue cities.
So we're working.
So
what I'm saying, and what I give the governor credit for, is that he called for the study and didn't run from the mirror.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to Rock Island, and I love this city. I got family in this city. I got business interests in this city. I pastor in this city. Is that when you see the mirror, as much as you and I wake up and sometimes we're in disarray, or you get up and you go to the mirror to see how you look, it would be a fool to look at themselves and don't make adjustments. If you know you have been out of place and out of pocket, and you are going to the mirror to make sure you look okay, and if you see something out of place, you would not be a wise person to look at yourself and say, no, I'm cool, let me just go out and this will be okay today. If you see something out of place, you would fix it. I'm asking Rock Island, don't run from the mirror of its poverty, its set of homeless challenges, its systems that are broken, the communities that get overlooked. Many of the times I'm spending time talking about certain wards that nobody brings up. But I see the numbers, and I drive past the streets, and I see the broken street lights, and I see the gravel roads, and I see the disrepair, and I see the homes that are vacant and the grass that is overgrown, and I see the businesses that are not operating in good faith. And some of our gas stations have more signage than the city should allow, particularly with tar or of liquor and cigarette ads in windows. There's a certain amount that you can have in windows. And you're fighting us, and I'm trying to fight poverty.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense to me.
It's like giving yourself a facelift when you have organ failure.
Yes, it does. Fix the real challenge. Don't run from the mirror. Don't run from the diagnosis.
And don't run away from the people in your city who need bold and thoughtful and strategic and informed solutions.
Yes.
You know, I'm so glad that you're here. I hope that this goes away, this ordinance thing. And, you know, my background is in therapy and policy and all that stuff, but I feel like you being integral to the downtown, having both the nonprofit, having maybe some private business interests, you're a homegrown outsider somehow. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is agitating to the system, but I feel like that is just what Rock Island needs. We need to expand the people downtown who are in the know, who understand what's going on, who understand real estate and that can expand the availability of opportunities to a wider pool of people, that can have an eyeball on extractive business practices of people who come in and suck out of this place what they can for themselves and then go live somewhere else. And even like looking at the budget of Rock Island in a thoughtful way about like, where are we putting our dollars? And the more we do to manage and control people who live in poverty, people who are homeless, people who are marginalized, like we need to be doing more that actually is life-changing and transformative. There are entrepreneurs in the West End. There are people wanting to start businesses. They need access to capital. They need access to a little bit of safety and security for, there's
That's right. Rock Island has great people. I will never take away, when I say city of Rock Island, I want to target so that people don't take the generalization. I'm generally referring to city staff, and I'm not talking about all city staff. I'm talking about the ones that oversee development and some of the regs and things of that matter. Everyday citizens I run in contact with throughout this city, of people that are trying to kind of pull things together and use bubble gum, duct tape, and shoestring to hold it till they can get to a better place, and folks fighting. The volunteers I see at most of the schools. I was with one public elementary school for last weekend going through a training with teachers that took time out of their own schedule, not getting paid for it, trying to bring some new ideas to see what's possible in the local school. And the students were there, and I'm working with these fifth and sixth graders really thinking about life together. That's Rock Island.
Mm-hmm.
When I returned back here, and I got a letter from a former elementary school teacher at Francis Willard, a handwritten letter saying, "Welcome back to the community. Remembered me from fifth grade."
Mm.
This is the community I love. People know me by Reverend Ford. They know me by Dwight. They know me by Dr. Ford. They know me by my nickname. This is my home. And nobody's going to tell me that I can't serve the people of my home. This is a shared house, and I want to do it the best I can. People have said we're that bad for business when it comes to the shelter. You know what else is bad for business? Someone dying of hypothermia outside your doorsteps as they were trying to wait to see if they could make it to morning and get a hot cup of coffee from you free, but they died there. That would be pretty bad for not just business, but life. What I'm telling you is our work just doesn't secure people, it saves lives. And I would invite any of the council persons, and most of them I've enjoyed a relationship that was at least cordial. I know some of them at times want to bury a knife in me and never forget what I've said or how far I've pushed. But I fight hard fights because they're worth fighting, because I'm trying to deal with the reality of death and life. And I push it to make sure that the real thing that we're talking about is the thing that we're talking about. And after that battle is over, I'll walk to the front of the line and shake hands and say, is there something else we can do for Rock Island citizens? I've always done that. Matter of fact, I haven't even waited till that fight was over. I've taken care of Rock Island citizens as if they were my family. Mm-hmm. And I will continue to do it through that agency. And as long as I am the president and CEO, I have a certain view and understanding of what it means to have this onus of responsibility that I could never deny. They have never been haunted by the faces of the people I've seen. They have never attended some of the funerals I've seen and have been privileged to officiate. I'm on the list for clergy right now that when somebody dies and doesn't have a clergy and they're low income and can't afford it, I show up for families. So there's so much about who we are as an institution that you don't know about. And the things we do for this city. We don't expect for you to clap every time our name is called. We don't expect for you to roll out red carpet. I don't expect for the city to lead this. I'm saying if you're not going to be a partner, then don't stand in our way. Let us take care of people. Because when somebody loses life freezing to death in a truck, an SUV in the city of Rock Island, and God forbid that ever happens, I sat in those council chambers while they were debating and that part of that moratorium, and you know the work I do with my wife, working with individuals coming out of sexual and domestic violence. I sat in the public comment while you are running around trying to see if we can license a new place. And I got someone in a waiting list that I could have housed coming out of hell on earth. And when you have never seen a child shaken because they've been sexually violated, when you've never seen a woman that is trying to soak up the blood on her head with her sweatpants, because that's the only thing she could grab half naked leaving out of the house.
Yeah.
If someone gets hurt or dies because of this moratorium that is so poorly written, meant to prevent people from doing the best work as in our shared humanity, you will never see and hear the end of me.
Yeah.
And God knows I don't make a threat, but that is my promise.
Yeah, you will not walk away from your mission nor the
No.
people you are here to serve, nor should the city expect you to.
No.
You are here to play a vital and important role in our community, and to play it just as strongly as a private business owner or some other entity in the city. You won't back away from your responsibility because the cost is great, and you want to be a good community partner. You want to communicate with people,
Yes.
but you will not back off of what you are here to do.
No, the staff, when you've seen them break down and cry because someone they were working with, or they get notification that a person that they used to serve has died of an act of suicide because things became overwhelming. When you have to tell them to go home. We've gone as far as we can today. When you see who shows up on the weekend just trying to get a little bit more done so they can start off Monday fresh to grab whoever comes through the door, I'm proud of that team.
Yeah.
I am. I'm proud of that team, and I'm proud of the work they do.
I don't think the community always considers that folks in those roles are first responders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you are coming into people's lives at the worst, sometimes, moment of
Nobody
their lives.
comes to see me when life works well.
Yeah.
Not one. I was late getting in the door because a young man recognized me. He said, Reverend Ford. He said, I'm on these. I said, how are you, man? He said, I'm on these streets. Everything he owns, he's carrying. He said, I try not to get in trouble, but I got nowhere to go all day long. Mm-hmm. And I said, here's my card. Come see me so we can work with you. He said, I don't want to bother businesses, but I'm hungry. And I ain't got nothing. But he felt safe enough to come talk to me. And the fact that he's saying, trying to own his reality of the decisions that he made, he said, I got overwhelmed, I lost my place, and here I am, and I ain't got nothing. He said, I don't want to bother businesses. I don't want to go in these, he calls them establishments. He's trying to figure out life. Who's going to sit and talk with him?
Yeah.
Should I just send him down to City Hall? What if I sent everybody that came to my doors down to City Hall?
Yeah.
What if I just sent them down there and said the city will figure it out?
Yeah, go ask them their plan.
So if I sent them down there, what is the city prepared to do after Fed and state funding may be reduced or eliminated? And some of your nonprofits won't have the resources. What is the city planning to do right now? Has there been any notification of these conversations? When's the last time? So when I think of Rock Island, and I don't want people to think that this is all push, I want to do my part of pulling. I want to pull the resources here. I spend my time in Springfield and Chicago every week almost, if not a Zoom call on the road, trying to bring more resources here. When you look at how our budget has grown, it hasn't been grown because I wrote more local grants. It has grown because I got more contracts with the state and feds. And there are two places where you get that done, Chicago and Springfield.
Yeah,
and
to
I'd rather
alienate them from that relationship through this shenanigans.
And I'm driving and bringing resources back here. If not, we're Forgot-tonia, flyover country. And even in the Northwest corridor, we got to fight for every resource. They know we're down here. We are the anchor to the Northwest corridor. We have the Northwest Illinois Continuum of Care that's lodged in our building. That's 15 counties of homeless shelters that are oversee the direct HUD recipient.
Well, and I don't know if this is possible, but I'd love to get involved in this somehow. But I wonder if the state would let us lobby them to do things differently in Rock Island. So, you know, they're going to do this new veterans home thing, or there's a lot of like money for development, and it's wonderful and it's great. But we have 15,000 housing units in disrepair. We have 1,900 units that are, you know, and we put millions in because that's how the financing comes and the structuring. And,
that's right.
But a lot of it will leave with the contractors who built it, or with the person running the nonprofit, or maybe I'm oversimplifying that. But just sometimes I think, like, what if we could capture all those funds and the 22 million coming through you and do more programming that helps people in a more substantial way, which is to say, take this money and do with it what you have reason to value.
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is really the galvanizing of the power that we have in people. And so
and getting people in Rock Island to vote for freedom and liberation. Like, I don't want to vote between someone who's going to ignore me and someone who's going to control me. And so I'm disengaged, and but getting people to kind of come up with, like, how do you wish social services ran, every mother and young man, and it's like, I need some access to capital so I can make my life happen.
That's right.
And just how do we...
So when Alderman Parker says he's heard from the people, what people?
Yeah.
Because there's a group of people in that 5th Ward that have been talking to me ever since day one of this moratorium.
Yeah.
What businesses? Because I got a group of businesses, too, that have been speaking to me and my agency and my team members. So I just hope, when you talk about getting people ready to vote, that the few folks that are down there in his or her ear, depending on what alderpersons we're talking about, that you count the votes. All I'm saying is be careful. The last time people felt like they needed to be heard and were ignored, we walk one mayor out and another one in.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is that if you don't read the room,
well, people
that the
need to
power
be,
is with people.
People need to be responsive.
That's right.
And I sit on like the Chamber of Commerce. I have a business.
Yes.
But I feel like business owners and people who are trying to be like developers, and you forget that you need people to come into your restaurant and buy your food, to come into your store and buy your clothes, to like if your whole city is broke and you're not investing in the people who live in your city and helping elevate their financial situation.
Because they're betting on people coming here.
They want new people to come and move
that,
out the poor people.
And what does that say about us?
Yeah.
Now think about it.
We're stupid and short-sighted. I don't know.
Most people want to invest in and raise up a generation, not at the expense of those they can welcome to be new family. But why would they overlook the people that are already here? What I'm saying is that I'm not anti-building buildings and developing and streetscaping. It is a needed overhaul of downtown, and I'll be the first to say it. But if I can drive an Abrams tank down the middle of Rock Island and spin the Durek around in any one direction and let off rounds and not hit a person, what have we done? Mm-hmm. So I could understand if we had tent encampments downtown. We have none. I can understand if people were all in the street and people were being accosted coming out of every establishment. We don't have that. I can understand that if I went into some of the restaurants, and I'm not talking about the ones right across from us, they do well. But any of the businesses that are stretched out, that are still there, and I'm not trying to poke a finger in the eye, I'm saying that you're fighting people that are trying to bring more people to help. So the 8 people that you see, you believe are experiencing homelessness, because there's no way for you to know. They don't have a sign that says I'm homeless unless they're pushing a cart or something in tow. But if they're just walking, they could have just got off the bus. They could be staying in one of our public housing units downtown with Community Home Partners and with Mr. John Chow and his team. They could be anywhere. What I'm saying to you is that you have judged them as being homeless and a harm to you, and you don't know them. You don't know where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. And why not, as you are investing in the buildings and the streetscapes, your and my challenge with downtown is not the 8 or 10 people we think are experiencing homelessness. Our challenge with downtown is that's all that is downtown right now. And so you don't have enough people moving. Imagine our sister city Davenport, and they're not perfect. To you, what you said, there's no perfect systems. But guess what? They have a major effort with homelessness. They have people experiencing homelessness. They have the agencies that support them. But you know what else they got? The ice skating rink. You know what else they got? The baseball park. You know what else they got? They got businesses that are flanking both sides. You know what else they got? Low-income housing. You know what else they got? They got public housing. You know what else they got? They got ballet. They got the symphony. They got Broadway. Mm-hmm. All of that's downtown. They got ballroom dancing. They got hotels. Yeah. But yet we can't figure out how to work together and live together. We got one world house. Matter of fact, we got one Rock Island house. And why you are trying to stand at the door to figure out who's worthy of an investment, because every time I do this work, they're trying to ask me, well, how many of them are true Rock Island citizens? All I know is that out of the 13 we got housed in 12 weeks, 8 of them were prior Rock Island citizens, and now they're reestablished in Rock Island, and they're all still housed to this day without help from us anymore. Yeah. That you should be clapping for. They're no longer on your streets and mine. They're in a house or a property in Rock Island, managing and paying their own way. What I'm saying is that we have the best chance to be something different. We have Allen's home that is coming up, the youth shelter. We have the YW providing its services and doing its best to meet a certain set of challenges. We have Christian Care, 108 years in the game of providing shelter for both men and women. We have the Third Place, a day center for the young man that stopped me right outside these doors and say, I got nowhere to go. I don't want to offend businesses, but I'm tired and I'm sleep deprived. That's what he said. He used the word, I have sleep deprivation, as he was trying to figure out how to utter the last two syllables of the word. He said, I need sleep, and I don't want to offend these businesses. That center will be there. We can wrap around. Project Now, everybody, most people that do this work, they're providing for the direct care. I actually move money on their behalf. How many people the city are moving money for? And I'm not doing this as comparative. I'm saying if we have the responsibility of moving dollars that we go and crisscross this state to garnish and bring back here, don't stand in our way to move those dollars.
Yeah. I think
Let us move them and help people get off these streets, stabilize their lives, wrap around services. There's some things we won't be able to do. We're not mental health providers. I can't manage that. That's not that I don't want to. I'm telling you, we don't have the capacity. That's not our role. But I'm willing to bring more to the table and friends to the table. What is your role in this? I know why I'm here. It is to provide the necessary wraparound services, weatherization, so that these folks in these wind-whipped homes that have debris and weather coming in can't keep the cool inside in the summer and can't keep the cold outside in the winter. Some of them got shower curtains stuffed in openings in their homes, and their basements got dirt and debris flowing in.
Wow.
Rats and rodents stepping in. We go in and fix those homes all the way up.
Yeah.
Single home repair, single roof repair. We have the LIHEAP services that we talked about, transportation, rural transportation, senior services, where these seniors get dressed that day and prepare themselves to see us as we drop off one hot meal, and that's the highlight of their total day because they're sitting by themselves the entirety of the rest of their day experience. And this is a chance, they say, they call their friends, and I'm going to see so-and-so, they're coming by to deliver the meal, and what could end up a 5-minute drop-off takes 15 minutes because they want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Dealing with our Parkinson's effort to bring Parkinson's awareness here and working with Alzheimer's individuals, doing our memory care loss support groups. There's so much that we do.
You guys do a lot. You do
that,
a lot.
That our Headstart programming, working with just not the children, but also the parents, getting them tooled up and ready for workforce opportunities, making sure that those kids are not going back to a home that is without lights and without energy.
And the city, rather than saying, thank God you're here, is like, well, why haven't they fixed everything yet?
So I mentioned all those that we have downtown, Christian Care, the Y, and its effort with Allen's House, the Lift Center, if when we're able to see if we can open up another overflow shelter, our agency moving the major dollars, the continuum of care. We have every piece to bring the city of Rock Island to functional zero.
Wow.
Every piece. We got a youth shelter, adult women's shelter, adult men's shelter. We got domestic violence shelters. We have agencies that move money. And we have a day center so we can case manage.
I almost feel like there's a campaign for downtown, like the only way through is through. And getting the business owners to recognize that the beginnings might be bumpy as we're getting our heads wrapped around this, as we're building a team downtown, as we're delineating whose expectations, who's responsible for what, including law enforcement, including the city, including inspections departments, including little business owners like me. But kind of this message that the only way through this to functional zero is through it. And that by having these services here, we move closer to eliminating homelessness, which is everyone's goal or should be.
That's right.
And we do that as a team. Like it's no one person's responsibility. And part of living in Rock Island is you can live in a community where maybe that's like something for you to feel like I live in a world where I'm going to take care of the people who live in this world with me. And I've spent a lot of time driving around. My daughters make so much fun of me, rolling my window down, talking to people who are going to Augustana things at Schwiebert and saying, excuse me, you know, there's some stuff going on downtown with homelessness. Has homelessness been a problem for you as you've been downtown enjoying things?
Yes.
Never does anyone say yes. Oh, well, maybe I saw someone, but like, no, that's part of being in a city, or, you know, those people are having a hard time. Or I have not met one person in my experience who has said, oh, Rock Island has this horrible issue and we need to get it to go away. I've talked to people who are involved in Renaissance Rock Island and
yes, absolutely.
who have all just said, you know, we rally around people, we'll figure this out, you do what you can. If you own a business and there's someone having difficulty, you say, hey, man, we're having an event here tonight. Would you mind moving over a little bit? I'm going to get you some dinner. There's just so many approaches to this that we can do this together. I'm so happy to host something here. Or John at Huckleberry's has offered in his side room.
Thank you. John has been a friend for years.
Yeah, if something is going on, like, you know, the city is setting up this division down here, more so than the people who are down here working, living. So I'm happy to be a part of any conversation, community effort.
And Sarah and Jose, when I told them, when this season, I know how hard this has been. I'm bringing all my senior level management down. I'm treating them out to breakfast here. Mm-hmm. I do it every year, long before we even moved further downtown. But I did that, and at the end of the season, they sent food down for all my staff.
Wow.
All of my staff. As an act of saying thank you. We're in this together. I feel like we're picking on
them because they were on that route, so they get brought up a lot, and not because they were bad actors or anything like that.
I brought them up because we have a relationship, and when you have a relationship, you don't walk away from each other. You walk toward each other. And regardless of the traffic or the challenges we've had, we've always taken another step toward each other.
Well, and I think having Christy at the third place, I'm down here, you know, there's other business owners that we can talk about later, but if some issue is going on, we need like to be on a group text chain where it's like, hey, there's this thing going on. Who has the resources, capacity, mind space today to show up and help? I want to live in that kind of a community. I don't want to live in a community where I'm like, not my problem, go to this place. You know, that's not fun. It's not meaningful. It doesn't build connection. It's not a vibrant network. It's not the Rock Island you grew up in as a kid where people were connected. And, you know, we have to return to that sense of interconnectedness. We're all a part of this. We look out for each other. We're a neighborhood watch system for one another. Mm-hmm. And you can put a call out to people who are willing to be involved in this space down here and say, I'm struggling with this thing.
Yeah.
And 5 people might be like, yeah. I mean, if Sarah and Jose were having a problem, I bet the community would show up to help them.
Oh, without question. But these are the same people. What people don't know is that for years they would give a meal or a cup of coffee. Some of the most generous people that I've ever met. And so I appreciate their relationship. Fresh Films, who was adjacent to our former building where the Lift Now Center was, they would call and we would show up. And if they would have a person sleeping outside their door, we'd go there and de-escalate and say, hey, are you okay? We got to move because they're operating a business. Is there somewhere I can take you? Did you want to get into our outreach vehicle? Is there something you need? And we've always been able to work with that group. And in the cases, if we have to call law enforcement, you can believe it was at a level. Mm-hmm. And we stayed there to make sure that we were part of the treatment and conversation team.
Yeah.
So as the officers arrive, we do our best to kind of let them know what's going on, that they can see our face.
They see your connection to this person.
Absolutely.
But I think there's more. That's why I loved, and on this little clip thing I did on my Instagram, the solution to this issue is not the social service ordinance. It's the Good Neighbors Agreement that you all put forth that the city never responded to you about. Never one response. And I would sign on to that. I think there'd be business owners, and you could have creative solutions. And if there are a couple business owners who really struggle with this issue, and that's their prerogative, and maybe they have political views or religious views or who knows what kind of views, I feel like the downtown folks who are interested and engaged we could make a little secret signal that they could put on a window, and the unhoused folks that everyone else is interacting with, we could say, like, stay away from those couple places.
Yeah.
And, you know, that would work too, but it's about communication, it's about community, it's about building relationships, and it's definitely, the city should not be driving wedges between different parts of its own downtown area, because, you know, even if things were bumpy at the beginning, that's not the end of the story, that's the beginning. And I'm very similar to you. I'd rather have hard conversations that get us further, and what did you say? We understand each other.
That's right.
We don't just surface level know each other, but we have these deeper kind of like, we're going through something rough here. We are helping people. We are coming together as community. Have you ever seen Call the Midwives?
I have not.
Okay.
I will have to now try to see if I can watch it. Really?
Yeah.
It's a sitcom?
No, it's a show that was like on the BBC or something, but it's about London in the 60s.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's about midwifery, like delivering of babies.
Absolutely.
And there's this house, Nonnatus house, which is like a nun house, and they have then these midwives, and they go out in the community on their bicycles, and you know, every episode there's some social problem or family in need, and you cry because it's so heartfelt, and the community's always together. And I'm like, that's where I want to live. I want to live on the set of Call the Midwife.
Well, I am sure you're already doing it. I think what you have offered in this time and space to be able to talk out loud, the points I take are not to try to hurt and harm. If anyone ever wanted to know the kind of fight that Project Now engages in, they can look at any of the public comments. They can look at any of the editorials we've written. You can watch any of the debates and dialogues and public comment sections on the city's website. You can follow us on Facebook. You will see us never intentionally trying to hurt or harm with language. We're very careful with language. I'm third-generation combat vet. Language is important to me. So I always try to keep the fight that we fight poverty, not people. And I don't want to fight the city. I fight poverty. And when you are not careful with language, and some people say, well, you know, the reason why we should be able to say what we want to each other or say what's on our heart and use this kind of language because at least we're talking to each other. No war starts without language. And you cannot enact the highest level of violence against another human being unless you have already conceded mentally and used language to describe them as less than human. Because something inside of you will break when you realize that they are just like you. And if I'm in a forward advanced location in combat and I take off my helmet and I have a picture of my family, if you have not already conceded mentally to think of them different than you think of yourself, you'll have to pause and realize that when they take off their helmet, they have a picture of their family. I love the Marine Corps. I hate war. And so I'm careful with language. So I never want to use language to hurt and harm. That is not to say I won't be direct and hold accountable with the language. But when people talk about homelessness and people experiencing homeless, well, the far majority of the people experiencing homeless are homeless and harmless. Hungry, tired, scared, frustrated, haunted by their own lives, dealing with unpacked trauma, no place to sleep, deprived of every bit of humanity. They're a shell of their former lives. And you think that they're wanting to hurt you? Because you've used language and bought into language about those experiencing homeless. Oh, we love the homeless. It's funny, even in the religious experience, where we can use these words, we love everyone, but then you don't have the capacity to love anyone specifically. Which one of them downtown will let somebody that is experiencing homelessness into their home? Have they ever eaten with someone experiencing homelessness? So until you walk and share, in the words of Ezekiel, and I sat where they sat. So until you sit where my staff sits, until you sit where the people we serve sit, you should be careful with language. And that goes both ways. I don't want to make a sweeping indictment that you're a cold-hearted business owner that doesn't care anything but by a dollar. I know you want the best for your family, and you're trying to live out your understanding of the American dream, and I'm trying to work out and make sure the people I serve have a chance at the American promise, that we will provide for the general welfare. You know, that's in the Constitution too. Mm-hmm. There's an onus of responsibility for civic government, and they've taken an oath to do that. So as they are fighting for the right of business owners, and which I say is their responsibility, I need to see you equally fighting for the right of the unhoused, for those that are borderline exposed to elements, that are sofa surfing, those that essentially eat and work and live out of an SUV, and we chide them because they come into our buildings and they have cell phones that look like yours, or their clothes that look like they get up and go to work every day. And you don't realize, and you think they're just going there to get a government handout, and you don't realize they sleep in that SUV. The new face of homelessness is not a man stumbling in the street suffering from Vietnam-era conflict trauma unpacked. It's actually a woman with a cell phone like yours and mine that dressed relatively business casual, with about 2, maybe 3 kids, in a truck or car that looks like yours, and you don't even know they sleep in a Walmart parking lot with the well-lit reality, because that's the safest place they can park without being interrupted. And in the morning, they drive their children, if they're too young to have a PE class with a chance for them to shower, they drive them to a gas station, Casey's bathroom, wash them up and sit them next to our children. And we don't even see them. So when you say, oh, we have no problem with them. So it's not about that we don't have any problems with them. What are you doing working to assist the work for them? Mm-hmm. What are you doing as a part of the solution? I don't want you to stop being a business owner. We need great businesses. Can you give a $200 grant to the third place to buy cups and napkins? Could you do that? I'm sure they'll be happy to give your brand exposure. What people are always worried about, who's going to attack them if they come out against, they should also be thinking about who's going to come in their support when they come out as an ally.
Ding, ding, ding. That's my whole thing about development.
So
I'm like, you've got all these do-gooder Rock Islanders and people in the region who are so hungry for kindness and generosity and connection and things that give life meaning and purpose. There's enough cruelness and coldness and selfishness in the world. It's like, this is our economic development.
This is. We did the Live Now Center. People would come in and give money. I don't want no tax deduction. Just take this.
Yeah.
And they would kids would come down, donate.
Yeah.
Blankets and shoes and coats. What else do you need?
Yeah.
All season long, people were trying. This tells me that this area, the Quad City region, Rock Island specifically, has some of the best people on the planet. To your point, we don't mine our own diamonds. We don't water our own gardens. And what if we gave them space to be more of who they already are? What if, even if you didn't agree with it, what if you just didn't fight it?
Yeah.
And let them do their best work and take care of people? We're not making our community safer by this moratorium. We're not taking care of the people that are experiencing the worst with this moratorium. We're not expanding opportunity through our nonprofits with this moratorium. We're not helping the downtown to develop more or faster with this moratorium. We have just essentially pushed ourselves in a corner. And rather than look at the window of opportunity, we forced ourselves to look at a brick wall. And we're better than that.
We're more creative than that. We're more inspired than that.
Yeah.
We're more than that. And see, I'm not a journalist because I just have such bias. I don't know how to be, but I'm definitely, rooting for the success of Project Now, of the interesting idea of like a nonprofit grocery store or market, or the things that you're talking about. Even
the city talking about now where they push back and want other cities. If you go back and check the record, I wrote an editorial for Quad City Business Journal talking about shelter in place. Where do you think that came from? My experience running the shelter.
Yeah.
And I said, what if cities would partner with each other? So maybe it's not Bettendorf alone based on its numbers, but maybe they partner with Davenport.
Mm-hmm.
What if Rock Island had its, or Moline had its own, or Moline and East Moline went together, or Moline and Rock Island went together, or whatever it would be?
But you don't get that way by modeling that it's so terrible and everyone's.
Right.
You get that way by saying, look at what we're doing here and it's great and it's.
At a smaller shelter?
Yeah.
Well, we take care of, but I've always said, why would a person in Silvis want to have to track 3 cities to get to a place they can survive the winter?
They don't.
Why would they want to leave the social network where people know them and check for them, where part of their day of remaining human is that they're going to see this person walk outside and they say a few words to them on their way into business or whatever, or give them a few dollars here, or the beauty salons that give them a couple dollars or something for sweeping up or taking out the trash for them, or however people manage that. The churches that always check for them or say, come by on Tuesdays, we have the community meal. And now they're dislodged. Even the law enforcement that knows them by name, and the emergency workers that normally come when they feel like they are overwhelmed and they ask someone to call 911. Now they're in a different city.
Yeah.
And they're not welcomed in that city. They're seen as a scourge. You know what else? We have a history with that. When people that were just trying to live and exercise their humanity and the rights that are afforded to them, we bust them to other communities. And they got off the bus hated. Before they could even step one foot on the ground, they were hated and despised.
I mean,
we're
is
doing the
civil
same
rights.
thing.
You know, it is civil rights.
Yes.
It's your right to exist, to life, and to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's right.
It's treating an entire class of people as though they have a different status in the society by targeting homeless people in these moratoriums and ordinances. It's a human rights and a civil rights issue.
That's right.
And it's unacceptable. And probably somebody could sue the city if they really push this and move forward. But
the city has a lion by the tail, and I hope that we could change course. We'll be at the table. We will never be far. We want to be a part of the solution. We believe we're already doing that.
And you're not alone. There are so many Rock Islanders who support you, who are appalled by these moves that the city is making, that, the people that live within the boundaries of Rock Island can make their voices known. And some do that in behind the scenes way, and maybe but then it's like, we don't know, who is. So the vocal Rock Islanders who are coming out to say, this is our city and this is what we want it to look like. We want it to look loving and inclusive and have opportunities for people to have a pathway from difficulty to prosperity. And, we're not giving up.
Good.
Dr. Reverend Ford.
Well,
Reverend Dr. Ford. I did it wrong.
Rock Island for all.
Yeah.
And I know where you stand on this. I didn't come here because I knew you would offer softballs. I knew that you are trying to seek a solution to the challenges that are there. I am always prepared to answer the hard questions and to give my authentic, truthful response. If it's a question I'm not prepared to answer, I'll say, I don't want to answer that right now. I don't have enough information, or we're working through that, and I don't want to preempt it. But I came here because I know of your willingness to have hard conversations and to deal with difficult realities. I would tell the city, what we're doing is not easy. None of us. I know that they're not having an easy time either. I know that they've gotten phone calls, and they should get more. If you're watching this now and you feel a certain way, call them.
Yeah.
However you feel, you should call them and talk to them. When representatives don't hear from us, they assume far too much. Call them. Let them know what you feel and how you feel about it. The moratorium, you don't have to be downtown. That moratorium is listed as Rock Island. You can be in any ward and make this phone call because it impacts everyone in Rock Island.
Yeah.
So Rock Islanders, to your point, I know we've been disappointed at times. There are things that didn't go our way that we had hoped for in the city of Rock Island. There's still the memory of the Watchtower Plaza and the Walmart that didn't make it here. There's some other dreams and hopes and aspirations that didn't have enough gas to get across the line. There's a downtown that's trying to get on its feet. Let them know that you matter. Because some of them are saying, we've heard from people, but they haven't heard from you. And they don't see you. So you need to say something that identifies you as fully committed to the best in citizenry. And yes, be responsive to the challenges, but also be in support of the representatives that take time to acknowledge your understandings and don't shoo you away as if you don't matter. I want Rock Island to stand up. So when they say we heard from the people, I want to know what people, because we packed out the city council for an hour and a half, and I know what people stood up. Yeah, so when they say they heard from the people, there are a lot more people that got something to say that public comment can't contain. So for the half an hour, do they really want people to take these cell phones and have a different conversation? Because everybody's a podcaster now.
I know. It's great in so many ways.
So you notice that they can just turn this on and say you would rather them talk to you. And I'm saying to the city, I would rather talk to you than about you.
Yeah.
And I would hope that they would feel the same way. I'd rather talk with you than about you.
And maybe there's more to come. You know, I'd offered several times with different people to get parties together and try to host something or demonstrate for, you know, the region. Like, these are hard conversations. How do you have them? There's always a path through. The only way through it is through it. And if the first 3 steps are a little bumpy, you don't stop walking or turn around. You keep going.
Right.
So, but I've kept you so long.
Oh,
I
I'm
know
thankful
you need
for
to
the
get
time.
out of here.
Thank you so much, and continued blessings for the work that you have engaged in, and more importantly, for being the person that you are. Sometimes we praise people for the work they do, not realizing it comes from a centering of their understanding of their own humanity shared with others. And I'm delighted to have met you personally. I'm appreciative of your platform and those that watch. And if anyone wants to reach out, just know you can just follow us at Project Now on Facebook and other platforms. And of course, you can locate us on the web at projectnow.org. And we'll be more than happy to answer the call, have a hard conversation if need be, and then make our way forward. At this point in life, if you're looking for easy, it went out the window a long time ago. All we have left is the necessary. Leadership is never easy. It's necessary.
Yeah.
And Project Now will always be a leader in the work to end poverty. But we won't be alone. We'll be out front, but we will never be alone. We're thousands, and we bring people with us.
I think that's a beautiful place to end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was so
appreciate the time.
wonderful. I feel like we could keep talking for another, let's see, what did we do? Almost 3 hours.
Really?
So.
I didn't know. I just kept talking. You can do part 1 and part 2.
We got the gift of
So, yeah,
gift
do
of
part
gab.
1 and part 2.
I'm the same way, but I'm so happy to have met you. I feel like kindred spirits and so.